In light of Maul Shadow Lord, I think that if we're honest, Dave kind of dropped the ball with like letting the story of Son of Dathomir just go to the comics and not address it at all. There's zero, nada, when it comes to like an animated version of the Son of Dathomir, what happens on Dathomir, and there's such a variety of characters. It's just animation prone. You have Sidious and Grievous and Dooku, and by the way, Maul captures both Grievous and Dooku in that comic, which is amazing. So in light of that, to give you like a reward and actually maybe inspire Dave Filoni, that I really think that he will or should put a flashback scene in Maul Shadow Lord when it comes out next year, I guess. He should put it in animated version, at least for just a scene or something, like Mother Talzin dies in that arc, in that comic arc. So I worked hard on putting this video together. It's Son of Dathomir with sound effects and everything, so I would really appreciate a like down below. If you are not subscribed, please do so. So let's go through what Dave Filoni might actually put in Maul Shadow Lord.
During this comic series, Maul was imprisoned by Darth Sidious, by Palpatine, but he escaped imprisonment, and what's more, he went on to capture both Dooku and Grievous in the aftermath of their inevitable battle. But they were attacked by the Republic, and Grievous managed to escape. Dooku, having no choice, seemingly now joined Darth Maul and his crusade, as both of them escaped the Republic, but Maul, however, had other plans, as he had to discuss some matters with the Black Sun and the Pike Syndicate. There was a big issue so far. There were more destructions than profits, according to the gang, and rightfully so. They lost their base on Zambar, they lost a stronghold on Ord Mantell, and now even the asteroid post that was invaded by the Republic. They were starting to doubt Maul's plans, and Maul was starting to get irritated. They would be compensated if that's all they're after. It's understandable coming from Maul, since he didn't crave wealth, he craved only power. He was trying to relate to them that with power then comes wealth. Whatever the case may be, he instructed them to return to their sectors and prepare for their next phase. Once Darth Sidious is dead, the galaxy will be theirs for the taking. This is when Dooku steps in, as he sees that Maul is slowly learning that seizing control is much easier than actually maintaining it. However, Maul was totally dismissive. He knew that their quote-unquote alliance had been Sidious's plan all along. In fact, he had instructed all of his peons to play this game, a game that Maul had outmatched them all. They finally arrived to the planet Dathomir. Now the tables had turned. Dooku was the captive, and Maul presented the Dark Lord to his brother. They were ready to proceed, only this time their encounter would be a bit different than Ord Mantell. Maul led Dooku into the chamber, a chamber where he summoned his Great Mother, the Diviner of Truth, the Deliverer of Justice. Mother tells us she in fact came to be through her magic. She appeared in the green mist, knowing full well that to eliminate Sidious, they first have to begin with Dooku. Meanwhile, in orbit of Dathomir, the scimitar was approaching. It was Darth Sidious accompanied by Grievous. They had traced Count Dooku's signal coming from Dathomir. Sidious orders to jam their communications and cloak the ship from view. This way, they won't even know what hit them. Dooku was straight out being tortured by Maul. He reveled at the sight and would continue to electrocute and drain the life force from Dooku. They were expecting the Count to be dead very soon. In fact, what happened next is something that Dooku had never experienced. He was pretty much possessed with the spirit of the great Mother Talzin. Maul was eagerly awaiting. Suddenly, an explosion occurs, and it was General Grievous. Upon seeing him, Darth Maul ignites his Darksaber, and their plans were already in motion. Nothing can stop them, and his former master approaches. Darth Sidious goes on to say to Maul that there is only one plan that will govern the universe, his. Now, Maul's forces are panicking. A droid armada had just appeared to their doorstep, both at the Pike Syndicate and to the Black Sun. They demanded to see Maul. However, the Zabrak was kind of busy at the moment. He was going to end this once and for all. As far as we know, in fact, fact, this would be the last time that they would face off against one another. Laughingly, Maul even referred to Palpatine as an old man. Now it was Mother Talzin's turn. She had full control over Dooku. She went on to say that now Sidious will pay for his betrayal, as we pan to Sidious and Grievous. Together, Maul was fighting Grievous, and Mother Talzin through Dooku was fighting the Dark Lord of the Sith, Darth Sidious. She was no match for Palpatine. Although she had control of Dooku's body, she possessed none of his skills, as Sidious had prepared a barrage of lightning. He ordered her to release her apprentice, as she was being electrocuted with the full force of the dark side. Even Grievous and Maul stopped their duel to witness this monstrosity, and Sidious continued. He was not letting go of Talzin. The electrocution made it so hard that Talzin finally relinquished the body of Dooku. She came out as a spirit and transformed herself into a physical body. She had finally returned. Palpatine had her right where he wanted. He disengaged his lightsaber. Now she was about to die. The Pike Syndicate and the Black Sun, however, were getting tired. They were finished. They abandoned both Maul and the Shadow Collective. Even when they were threatened with death, they didn't even care. In their minds, this faction of Maul wouldn't even survive the day. Right at that time, the Separatist invasion fleet was fully prepared to strike Dathomir. They were there witnessing what had just happened. Maul pushes Grievous outside. Talzin attacks Sidious with green lightning. She had waited alone. The Emperor, though, was the right opponent. They in fact blasted lightnings at each other at the same time, and it seemed that none would get the advantage. Now Dooku was away. He picked up his lightsaber. Sidious was slowly struggling against Mother Talzin, and Maul pleaded for Mother to take his strength. Dooku had even joined with his lightning, 2 against 1. Mother Talzin could no longer hold the Sith out. Out of the shadows came Grievous, back at Maul, and Maul implored her mother to fight for her life. But in the meantime, outside, his crew was pleading with Lord Maul. Dathomir was already lost. They had to retreat as quickly as possible. Mother Talzin finally instructed his son to go. He still believed that they can escape together, but no, not this time. Talzin was ready for her demise. All she wanted was for Maul to live on and not die here together with her. As Grievous slowly approached, she pushed Maul into the arms of the Shadow Collective. They dragged him all inside the ship, kicking and screaming. He was pleading to let him go. But it was time for Mother Talzin. She had relinquished her force powers. Grievous, with his 2 lightsabers, ignited. Maul cried out as Grievous sliced 2 lightsabers through her heart. At the moment, it was finally done. The Witch of Dathomir was no more. Maul lost it completely. He was crushed from this point on. As the personal starfighter left the planet, Maul escaped this time, but according to the canon timeline, Palpatine and Maul never met face to face again. And this time Palpatine had gotten rid of his most persistent problem so far, the Witch of Dathomir and the Zabrak warrior that he once called his apprentice. Now their history was erased, and theirs was the most certain it had ever been. This is why in Jedi Fallen Order, for example, when we go with Cal Kestis to Dathomir, you see only vast emptiness. You see Dathomir as this desert planet no longer being occupied by anything, because Sidious cleansed this planet once and for all. And as much as the Jedi were a problem back in the day, and Order 66 erased that problem, this problem would be much more persistent. But the final nail to the coffin had come. The Son of Dathomir comic series actually shows us how Sidious managed to get it done. Both Dooku and Grievous were captured. They had their own problems, but Sidious had to step in personally. And once he did that, you know that stuff is about to go down. So Sidious managed to kill 2 birds with 1 stone.
Yeah, this amazing thing. Gigantic battle was never featured in any of the Clone Wars arcs, which they had a chance to do so. If the comics are any indication, they had early versions or early machinations for this type of a battle scene. This represents, by the way, what most people forget. They get caught up in Mother Talzin and Maul and Sidious battling Grievous and Dooku. This is the destruction of Dathomir, which has consequences years and years later. Even in Jedi Fallen Order, we kind of see the destruction of Dathomir. We kind of see the consequences of Dathomir being destroyed. So It's like the destruction of Mandalore and never getting to see it. We got to see it just briefly in the Mandalorian series. So by rule, Dave Filoni and Sam Witwer, if you're listening to this, please do something, intervene, talk with Dave Filoni. Just a flashback, please, of the destruction of Dathomir. Set aside all these gigantic characters that are in this battle. Personally, just the destruction of Dathomir alone deserves some sort of a recognition in something live, either be animated or live action, which I don't think live action is ever going to happen, but at the very least we have a chance with this new series, Maul Shadow Lord. You know, it's a easy scene to make. Maul was there personally. He did all of this personally. He got persecuted by Palpatine, and Mother Talzin died while Maul was right there watching. It's a traumatic event, and this new series is about Maul, so Maul could be recollecting his traumatic this traumatic scene. It's the easiest thing to do. So please, Dave Filoni, somebody, make this happen.